Good morning. Rambam Hilchis Mechusrei Kapara, Perek Aleph Halacha Beis, and then we're going to also move on back to the Rabbi, since we talk here about Geirus and Geirus Bisman Hazeh. So the Rambam is talking about what's considered Mechusrei Kapara. Mechusrei Kapara means that somebody does everything he has to do to become pure. The only thing he hasn't done is brought a carbon. And he brings a list of halachas regarding who is a Mechusrei Kapara, but then he comes on to a Gemara. Then comes on to the following halacha. Ger Shemol V'Tavo, a ger that did the first two steps of Geirus, which is his bris milah, and he went to the mikveh. However, there's a third step, and that is we're going to see that you have to bring a carbon. Now, what's his status? So here's the Rambam is very, very confusing the way he presents his status, and in Hilchis Rabbi doesn't help the confusion, so let's see what he says. Aval pi shu also lechol b'kosher. Now, a blanket statement: he cannot eat kosher at sheyaveh kabbalah. So l'chayr that would l'chayr make him a mechusar kapara. No, ain't name a mechusar kapara. He doesn't fit the heading of mechusar kapara. Why? Shekarbana ikvai lihiyois ger gomur. Now listen to these words. The carbon is preventing him from being a full ger. And then he adds another line. V'liyois kechol ksheirei Yisrael. And being like all the kosher Jews, what that means, I have no idea yet. Or at least this is a problem. Now, Rambam is not done. In other words, it's not a mechusrei kapara problem, it's a problem in being a lack of ksheirei Yisrael. Therefore, he does not eat kosher. Because he hasn't become a Yisrael. As if he added something, I don't know what he added it. Now, so we get the picture, right? You can't read because of it. Kiven sheyavi karbana, v'yas Yisrael kosher, eichel b'kosher. First of all, the amount of words spent on saying a simple concept that he said. I mean, a concept we don't understand, but the extra words don't seem to help us. And that he needs to bring his carbon in order to complete his Geirus, or at least to become Ksheirei Yisrael. So finished. Therefore, he's not a, what's this whole arichus? Okay. And then he goes on to talk about another halacha, which is really not relevant to us now, so we're not going to get it. Now, where does this come from? So there's an interesting anecdote. The Rambam seems to be getting into what some would call semantics. But it's not. The Rambam does not do semantics. So let's see what I'm talking about. The Mishnah in Krisus, Perek Beis Mishnah Aleph, which in the Mishnah is, and in the Gemara Daf Ches, says Arba'a Mechusrei Kapara. There are four types of people that are classified as Mechusrei Kapara, meaning that they can't eat kachim until they bring their carbon. Eilu hein mechusrei kipurim. Hazov, v'hazava, v'yeleda, sametzah. Those are the four mechusrei kapara. But listen, when yain kivay ger mechusrei kapara, actually is a galadam. He's also mechusrei kapara. And he brings a case of a nazir. I'm not going to talk about nazir today, so let's stay away from it. All right. So now, we need to understand something. The Gemara asks a question. Has a good point. Ger mechusrei kapara. Tanakam my time like honey ger. My answer Ki katoni midam the mishul mechel bekotche. Ger ki kamaisi Korbon lachshur nafsh mebekot. The words translated. When is somebody mechusik kapara when his Korbon is to allow him to eat kotche? However, a ger doesn't bring the Korbon to allow him to eat kotche. Brings the Korbon to allow him to go become a Jew. The male become part of the Jewish nation. So these words are not clear what they mean. The Rambam in Pirush HaMishnah increases. Seems to disagree with what he writes in the Sefer. Yeah, now I'm not gonna. I'll preface that we don't generally get scared of that, or that Rambam in Pirush HaMishnah disagrees, because it's a different Sefer. It's a Sefer made for Pirush Pashup Shat, and then he didn't write it for Halacha, and then when it comes to Halacha, he writes differently. However, when it's so blatant, if we can find a commonality between them, it would be helpful. But let's see what he says. Zog the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnah, ve'ein bein Rabbi Lezer ben Yankiv Chacham and Machlekes ben Yonim. They don't disagree. Zulosi beger. They only argue on a ger. Now he doesn't talk about Nazi for some reason. Shatane kama oimer. The Mishnah when it says arba mechusar kaparim mishamol v'taval. Soon as he has a bris milah and he does tefillah, make a muta loy lechol b'kotchim ba'korban mitzvah ba'alma. He's allowed to eat korban. He doesn't have a korban mitzvah ba'alma. Mitzvah ba'alma. Rabbi Eliezer shu also lechol b'kotchim at sheyizer kol adam. Imuhevi beheim or the kaparasay chiyavi korban ma'ayif. Okay, that's not really our discussion, but that's what he said. So according to this, the Tanakam who doesn't mention doesn't mention ger because he says it's not coming to allow him to eat kachim in the Lashon Gemara. It's lachshur in national mevakal. Rambam in Pirush HaMishnah learns that it means you're allowed to eat kachim before you bring the korban anytime, even in the Bisman Shemesam English Kaim, that's Allah. The Bartanura, known as the Rav, says similar words, but he just changes a little. He says, Tanakamasova, Ger, Kiva Shemavata, Mutalech Bakachim, ain't Korbon Ma'akvai Elamilava Bekal. The purpose of the Korbon is, as the Lashon Gemara, to make him allowable to get married and become part of the Jewish nation. So, just to note, the Rambam's Lashon Korbon mitzvah ba'alma is like extreme. The Rav is sort of a go-between. It's not for this, it's for this, but it's still an important Korbon. It's not just a mitzvah ba'alma. And this Lashon of mitzvah ba'alma needs biur. The Brisker of in Masechtas Nozid Avnembov takes note of this issue, and he says it's perplexing what the Rambam said. That in the Pirush HaMishnah, he says according to the Tanakama, which the Rambam says the halacha is like him. Rambam writes there, the ain halacha ke Rabbi Lezer, and halacha is like the Tanakama. He says. That Kivon Shatoval Umol Mutakrabach is kosher. It's finished. And according to Bezman Yankiv, we need to yeah. And we hold like a Tanakam. But in Hilchis Mechusar Kabar, and he says, and yet, ain't him Mechusar Kabar because it's not the purpose of his korban. In other words, it's semantics. In Hilchis he's just telling you, it doesn't matter the halacha, it's only technically not that. He's just not Yisrael kosher. That's why he can't eat korban. And after he brings it, but it's definitely not mitzvah ba'alma, so what? So he just says, it seems to me, the Rambam has different approaches there. As I said, let's see if we can resolve it, but we'll see. Now, To make matters more perplexing, and Hilchas Yisur, which is the halachas of Geirus, Rambam writes, "B'shloisha devarim nichnus Yisrael lebris, v'mila u'tfila v'Korbon." You need all three. That's halacha aleph. Fast forward halacha dalet. V'chein l'Geirus. So too for generations to come. Kishayir tzaha akum li kones lebris l'steifef tachas kam feshkin. I once gave a shiur on the words of this Rambam, what it means, but it's not for now. The Kabbalah of Torah, which would seem to be the preface to the next part. Like that's the first step. And then step 2 is Sarach Mila Utvila Vatzos Kar. Then you need those three things: Mila, Tvila, and the acceptance through a card. And then he goes, and he brings it out to a post. Kochem Kager Ma'atam Mila Tvila Vatzos Kar. Ma'atam the there is Mila Tvila Vatzos Kar. Hey, you need all three. Once again, and says something very, very interesting, which is halachically correct because we're going to find the source for it. Ma'u Korbon Ager, Eilis Behema, Eilish. I understand. Ubizman Azeh, She'ain Sham Korbon, Sarach Mila Utfil. There is no Korbon. Ukishi Yabana Base Hamikdash Yavi Korbon. Again, it would sound that you're good enough with Mila and Tefillah. When the Mashiach comes, it's a Mikdash built, you bring a car. The Lashon bothers me a little, why he throws it in right here. You just said, Sarach Mila Tefillah. Now, not only that, Yavi Korbon is not so simple as we will see soon. I mean, Yavi Korbon, yeah, but he doesn't separate it, whether he separates or not. But the point that I want to make is that there's no reason for it here. Here's Ilchas Beisam. I mean, here's Ilchas Yisur. In Ilchas Kapari, he could have said this, that, when there's no carbon, when Mashiach comes, you bring your carbon. What's it doing here? Yeah, not a massive question, not a big question. It's just a buke in the way he says it, because we'll see. I think it might mean something. This Gemara is in Krisus, Taftes. The Gemara asks a question on the since you need carbon, now there's no carbon, let's not accept Geirus. Now, the V'gomer, according to most, is the real word that's missing. That we learn out that that Geirus is eternal. We're always Makabel Geir. And therefore, even if there's no carbon, have to get there. Whatever that, if the image to make situations that things are missing, Kabel Geir. What would that mean, that if Chas v'Shalom is Xer on Mila and you can't do a bris Mila would also be? No. That's not what we're talking about. Now, why? Maybe we'll talk about that. But that's what I mean. Okay. So now I want to a little sidetrack, come back to the actual text of the Rambam and just discuss a very interesting issue. So what is the status of a ger bisman hazeh that does not bring a carbon? So there are a number of discussions about it. I want to mention a few discussions. On one hand, you need a carbon for Geirus, right? That's what it's the three things. One of the three things. However, today only Mila Tvila. So, what is his status today? And especially when you add that the carbon doesn't let him be a ger gomura. So, what is he today? Is he a ger gomura or not? All right. So the shaila is a ger that's this Geir bisman hazeh, the Beis Hamikdash is built. There's a shaila. What is his status? Does he now that he has to bring a carbon? Is he back to the previous status of not being a kosher ger? Totally. So there are those based on a Sifri, the Netziv wants to say that as soon as the Beis Hamikdash is built, he has the same din of Mechusar Kippurim, like the Rambam calls him, he's not a ger gomer, and he's not allowed to eat kachim until he brings his korbanos. However, the Rebbe Chelik Chavav L'Kutei Sichos Parshas Mishpatim Sicha Gimel says it cannot be a ger today and tomorrow be a Mechusar Kippurim. It was if we learn out from the Deir Seichem that you are a ger, you're a ger, and you are done. Why do you have to bring a carbon? Because they're mitzvah. I can't. That works good with the Rambam and Geirus. Mitzvah b'alma. You can't undo his Geirus. His Geirus today is complete with two things: Mila and Tfil. And a similar concept exists, and again, I'm not going to get into it. Do we need smuchim for Geirus? So, pashtus you do. What happens today? There's no smuchim, no mumchim. So, Halacha is on the Ramban and Tesis. Two reasons why it's good. One, same pasuk with Deir Seichem. Two, because you learn it out from, because you say Anan Shlichus Sayu Kavdina. Again, I think I once discussed it in one of our Shiur. But the point of the matter is that the Rebbe says the same idea. You cannot tell me that he was, you didn't need smuchim, and now Mashiach comes suddenly, smuchim, go back, you need smuchim. You don't go back. That's what you're halais Geirus, you're full ger. You're a Jew, you don't come Israel. Now, this is also a tshuva in Avnei Nezer, Chelik, Deis, Siman Shin Dal Mem, and the Rebbe references it in the Ha'ara there, and he talks about it, an interesting shaila, a little different, but he also comes to this shaila. What happened at the time of the Beis Hamikdash itself? If he didn't bring a car, was he allowed to marry a Jewish girl? Just initially in Kachim, or no? Today it's different. But only Bizman Hazeh. There is Seichem. And he wants to say that it's a machlekes, the Rambam and Ramban. According to the Rambam, the Rambam, he wants to say that Bizman HaMikdash, the carbon would be ma'akim for marrying a Jewish girl. And the other hand, Tais in the Rajva, don't learn like that. And he goes through this Rambam, and he basically comes out saying that the source of the machlekes Rambam and holds that there is no difference between marrying a woman and eating kosher. In time of Beis Hamikdash, if you can bring a carbon, the carbon is necessary in your Geirus, and therefore you can't marry a Jewish woman until then. Now that the Beis Hamikdash is bottled, there's no Beis Hamikdash right now. You can't bring a carbon. Then the two things that make him a ger is Mila and Tvila, and that's enough, and that's it, he's done. And therefore he says that according to the Rambam, that is. According to the Rambam, that which you have to bring when Mashiach comes, mitzvah b'alma. Just like that, but it's not a thing. And the Rebbe mentions this and brings this as a proof to his point. Okay. So I want to go back to analyzing the words of the Rambam, and perhaps to understand a new approach in the Rambam with this understanding that he's an okay ger today. But to try to understand how the two Rambams can maybe fit, Pirush Mishnah and the Rambam and Sefer Hayah. As we said, the word mitzvah b'alma was a problem. Because even as the Nezer says, he can't marry a Jewish girl. So what does he mean mitzvah b'alma? He writes that his carbon is ma'akev liyas ger gomer. So he mashma that he's not a full Jew. But then he writes that Ksheirei Yisrael. What's Ksheirei Yisrael? What is this concept? What is this Ksheirei Yisrael? Right. So he writes again, and then his repetition. And what did he write this? He's not a ger. He's not a ger gomer. He can't eat kosher. He's not Jewish. Then he writes again, the kivashi yavi Korbon yasi so kosher. What is the need for all this? What is the need? Yeah. So, well, and again, why does he write in Hilchas Surah Bia? If it's only mitzvah ba'alma, as David Nezer says. The Minchas Yitzchak in the Tshuva asks two beautiful questions. He says, we learn out, Korbon is not ma'akiv from l'dayrei seicha. Now, the Rambam in Hilchis Yisur Bia is very pasuk oriented. For everything, he brings a pasuk. Everything. Mitamol. And we saw it, there is all that. When it comes to the pasuk, the Zmana says, Mila, Tfila, Korbon, Ein Ma'akiv, no pasuk. Why? If he's so pasuk oriented, tell us where'd you get it from? Now, sometimes we ask the other way, why is he being but here it's clear that it go through the halachas, every single thing is a halachah. Another good point that he asks, beautiful question. And Rambam writes, Tefillah hoisa b'midbar koydem matan Torah. Stresses that they were table before Matan Torah. But Korbon doesn't write that it was before Matan Torah. He says a very beautiful, beautiful idea. And I think it could help in understanding the Rambam very much. He says the Rambam does not learn Korbon that from the Korbanos that we form Matan Torah. And that's why he brings the pasuk that he brings by Korbon is talking about after Matan Torah. It was all after Matan Torah. And since Korbon is not ma'akim and Geirus, and it's only when you can. It's only when you can. It's an aftermath. In other words, the Geirus will be good before. Which would fit with the Avnei Nezer, but I don't know if you have to go to that extreme. So, now that you can, do it when the base of English is around. So he said, like, it's the Gemara increases that learns that the Korbon was before Matan Torah needs a pasuk. The Rambam learns that the Korbon was not that Korbon, was a Korbon after Matan Torah. And therefore fits beautifully. In other words, the Dairei Seichem is not the source of the Rambam. The source of the Rambam is because it's after Matan Torah. If so, we can understand perhaps a little different than the way the Avnei Nezer understands what the Rambam shittas. There is no difference according to the Rambam between Mizman Hazeh and Mizman Beis Hamikdash. The Etzem HaKorbon is mitzvah ba'alma, but it doesn't mean mitzvah ba'alma. It's not an effective mitzvah in the Geirus. The Rambam is coming to tell us. I'll admit it's a twist on the word of mitzvah ba'alma, but it fits very well with the Ksheiri Yisrael. The Rambam starts off telling us that the Korbon makes him is ma'akvei liyas ger gomer. What does that mean? So he writes right away, meaning liyas is kechol Ksheiri Yisrael. Why? Geirus is done through Mila and Tefillah. However, the Torah wants that your first act of mitzvah after Geirus needs to be Korbon. Why? It's not my business. But that's what the Torah wants. And that's what he says. Your Geirus is not complete, meaning you haven't begun your Yisrael process. You haven't begun acting as a Jew. To act as a Jew, you need to begin with a carbon. Your mitzvah should be a carbon. Now, the word Ksheirei Yisrael is a strange word, and I'll tell you what I found, where I found it being used. But that's why the Rambam reiterates, when you bring the carbon, you become Ksheirei Yisrael. Now you can eat the kosher. In other words, this is not it's a mitzvah ba'alma. It is only a mitzvah, but this mitzvah is what you need in order to be able to eat the bananas. Now, true, that's not what he says in Perlstein Mishnayos, where he uses the lashon that in Perlstein Mishnayos, where he uses the lashon you can't say he means that. But that's what you can connect only that the mitzvah of alma is not a steer to being gergla. True, there he says the pasuk shot in the Mishnayos, but what he means with mitzvah of alma is true la halacha too. It is only mitzvah alma. The only thing is that in halacha that mitzvah of alma lacks in Ksheirei Yisrael. That's why he creates a new concept called Ksheirei Yisrael. And that's what he says, Nasi Yisrael kosher when he brings it. Now, Rashi in Daniel, I found very cute, Aleph Pasuk long days, when it says, and the Pasuk, Yedei Elikov, he says, Uksheirei Yisrael, Sheachziku B'yiras Elikeya. Ksheirei Yisrael means those who are very committed to God. Rabbi Avram ben Aramba, which makes it even more close to home, he has a sefer called Hamastrik Le'evdei Hashem. So in Perek Chafei, he writes regarding the Tfilas Keri, Chitzas Bal Keri LeTfila, V'zayis Mishum Shehu Chayva Lefi Hayra Ge'oinei Yisrael Ba'alei Hara U'minhag Ksheirei Yisrael. So I believe that word Ksheirei Yisrael is a reference to people who are doing mitzvahs, medagnikim. So that the Rambam is using a different lashon. He's bringing a special lashon there. Ksheirei Yisrael. So perhaps what the Rambam is saying that b'zman hazeh she'ein shem Korbon tzorech milo tvila k'shibana b'samigdash yavi Korbon is not stam averta. The fact that he intends to bring a carbon Mashiach Beis Hamikdash, that makes him into the Ksheirei Yisrael. Makes him Yisrael kosher. Yeah. And so there, if I can't, this works very good with what the Minchas Yitzchak says, that it was after Matan Torah, because it's only talking about Yisrael kosher. When do the Yisrael kosher after Matan Torah? Now, even though it said that's what makes him Ksheirei, since it makes him Ksheirei Yisrael, he doesn't have to bring it in order to eat carbon, as the Nezer says in the Rebbe. All right. I think, and that according to the chat, it's also good why Taisus and the Ramban regarding Bezn Mumchen use two pshatim. Right? They bring Ladar Seichem and they bring Shluche Dan. Shluchim the do where their shluchim shluchasayu avdina. So it could be because according to the Rambam and according there are two sugyas. One sugya holds their seichem, one sugya doesn't. So they bring both shot. Okay, the bottom line is, the nekuda is that the Rambam is created a new concept called Ksheirei Yisrael for this mitzvah of carbon. Carbon brings you to that level. Now, that level that Rambam says is necessary to be able to eat kosher. But that level can be accomplished today without a Beis Hamikdash with the intent of bringing a carbon. And that's enough. That makes you Ksheirei Yisrael. Once you Ksheirei Yisrael, no shayla. And then you're out of you're out of any questions. Okay. Seid gesund und stark. Hatzlacha Rabbi.